Hello and welcome to this new episode. The topic remains death, and I've been with the lockdown about to end, and a lot of people a little happier than before. Uh, I was thinking whether I should continue having this conversation on death, but the kind of responses I've got to the first episode that we put up, I think it remains a topic that we need to speak of. So thank
We
you for.
always need to speak of this topic because it's an
Hmm.
eternal topic
Hmm.
and it's a fact of life,
Yes.
and it's not a subject that should be ignored at any time, because what happens is that most of us are completely not equipped to deal with a
Hmm.
subject like this or even the matter of death, and it is always going to be a part of our life. Sooner or later we will lose our loved ones and our loved ones will lose us, and
Hmm.
we all need to know what to do in a situation like that.
Uh, you have preempted where we could have gone, and I like this because this is a different flavor to my usual first question. So, wouldn't somebody call this approach that you just mentioned as
Hmm.
uh, a very morbid way to look at life?
Actually, I don't think it's morbid at all. I think it's a very, very positive and interesting way to look at life, because end of the day, life goes on. And what happens most of the time, I think at the outset I must here tell you that I am not someone who has had to deal with it firsthand.
Okay.
And touchwood may be remain so, but I am also one of those people who don't know what to do when someone goes through it. When someone close to me or an acquaintance goes through it, I don't know what to do. I'm the lost soul. I try and avoid that conversation. I try and avoid that person. I call up later. I go by instinct because I have never been prepared for it. And I know that sooner or later I will go through it. And I would like to be prepared. I wouldn't like to be one of those people who get shattered, because, like I said, life will go on and it must go on, and it's something I would like to teach my children and the people close to me. As I always tell my husband, if anything happens to me, I would like you to go on. And for that, he needs to be prepared, so that this conversation needs to happen. We've done it with our children as well. We have, whenever they've talked about it, they're at an age where they find it very interesting. And they say things like, Mama, when we grow up, you'll be dead. And we have never
Yeah.
discouraged that conversation. They have asked, will we ever be there? And we have always said yes. We have approached it very matter of fact. So I think this is a very important conversation of how to approach the subject with your children, which is where I'm coming from, and with other people like me who don't know what to do and who go by instinct.
Um,
So it's a subject that absolutely must be talked about.
it's very interesting because I think hardly 15 minutes back I wrote something on Facebook addressing a friend who had put up a picture of a cat and written about some male cat coming and killing one of the kittens in her compound or
Oh,
something. And it just took me back to one of the first times I had a brush with death because there was a cat who came and gave birth to few kittens in one of her cupboards because the door of the small cupboard
oh,
was open and she went inside. There were little clothes lying there, so she found it very warm and proper.
yeah.
She gave birth, and we didn't know how to deal with it once we realized because they can be quite ferocious during that time.
Oh, yes.
And the male, irrespective of that, and we used to feed her milk and some stuff, I don't remember what. And the male cat did come after 3 days and tried to take away. And in the fight that happened, one of the
Hmm.
kittens got killed.
Oh,
And as a kid, I almost saw everything happening. We were just watching because it was mesmerizing that in terms of seeing two cats fight.
yeah, it's fascinating.
And
See, there you go, human nature.
yeah, yeah,
Fight, death, destruction is very fascinating.
it is. And so, because of what you what you just said, it took me back to my childhood and how the sense of loss was palpable. Like I could
Yeah.
see the kitten hadn't started and you didn't know how to react, but you there was a sense of loss, there was a sense of comfort as well. Okay, it is dead, it's not hurt.
Yeah.
Because that is another thing as a kid you fear falling down, hurting yourself, or like I think all humans fear. So that was a sense of consolation that okay, at least it's dead, and the male
Yeah.
has been hurt and he's ran away, so the rest of them are safe. So there is like a lot of conflicting emotions. Um, this is one thing that I wanted to bring up. Another thing while we were talking came to me was uh, because of my meditation practice and the kind of theory that we focused on in our initial learning period.
Mm.
Uh, the Buddha has described impermanence uh, and its consequent suffering that we go through, not as just suffering. He also says when we are happy uh, and that
Mm.
moment of happiness goes away, there is a sense of loss, there is a sense of suffering about that as well.
Yes.
And loosely, a lot of monks call it dissatisfaction. Um,
Yeah.
I love that term because after I realigned myself to this new meaning of quote unquote death, impermanence, whatever, this
Yeah.
dissatisfaction with what changes, I think it just eased the entire concern of loss itself. Do you think it makes sense, and how would you relook at things if seen from that perspective?
No, I don't know how I would explain it.
Ah,
The only thing that I can say is that every time I've lost someone in my life,
hmm,
I have turned to philosophy, to books, to even hanging out with friends and doing some really bizarre and strange things, because we all try to cope with the grief.
hmm,
Okay, we all try to cope with the grief, and we all find our own ways of doing it. I remember recently a very dear friend passed away, and his sister flew down from another city, and she was talking, and she was very calm and very peaceful, and it was on the day that he passed away. She was on a flight the whole day, and every time she was stopping at any, she had a hopping flight, she was stopping
hmm,
anywhere, we would call, we would talk, and a lot of us would talk, and then some of the friends called and said, it doesn't seem like it affected her. Are we overreacting and being overprotective? And I thought about it. I thought that that's true. She's not reacting the way we are expecting her to react. The breaking down and the crying. She's laughing at stupid jokes. She's cracking stupid jokes. She's
hmm,
talking about him. There are times when she's completely talking about practical stuff, that I need to plan a funeral, I need to wind up the house, can you help me get a lawyer? All of that. It's a coping mechanism. It's not that she's not feeling the loss. It's just that she, at this point, is not dealing with the entire loss, but the entire practical aspect, which is helping her deal with it. And when she finds the time, she will process the grief. And we all process the grief in different ways. Some people fall apart. Some people think, philosophize and say it's dissatisfaction or the sense of loss and
hmm.
nothing is permanent. We all trying to find solace in things that we all do. I remember about 10 years ago, I lost an aunt while I was on my honeymoon, and this is my aunt who was extremely close to me. And while it was shattering, and 10 years later, it still hurts to think about her, to talk about her. I inevitably pick up my phone to call her on festivals, because that's
Oh,
been my life forever. And I still do it. I'll wear a particular sari and I'll think, she would have loved this one. Or, my kids will say something and I'll say, oh my God, she would have really laughed. So, although I did not cry even once, because I was at the beginning of a new life, I just got married, I was on my honeymoon.
yeah.
So what helped me cope was that I was at the beginning of a new life. So I had somewhere to focus my energies on. Who knows how I would have reacted if that had not been the situation. So we all find our own ways, we all find our own philosophies. So while the monk's saying it's not, nothing is permanent, and I agree with that, and happiness is not, and sadness is not, we all wish it were. You know, if it was possible that we'd lose no one in our lives, why no one? Nothing, I would say. If I didn't have to lose that childhood doll or, you know, that old T-shirt that I used to wear in school, I would love that as well. Because we tend to find, form attachments. And I often hear people saying that it's not a good idea to get very attached to something. And I say, no, you must. Because I know you're going to feel a great sense of loss when that person or that thing goes away. But, count your blessings. Better to...
Hello.
So we all find our own ways of coping. We all find our own philosophies. There are people who say, after me, I don't want you to sit around and cry. I keep saying that when I die, I need all of you to have a party. Please don't come with golden eyes to my funeral. Come there looking good. There's a music list already with a DJ to play at the party because I love dancing and all of that. We all have our own way of coping.
Yeah.
While there'll be people who say, daan kar dena, ya, mere ashes ko Haridwar le jana. That's even with our own mortality. We all deal in different ways.
Yeah.
I have a house girl who's terrified of dying. And nothing you can say can change that. So she wants the whole, the puja karna and the daan karna, ye karna, or 13 din mein aise karna, because she wants, that's her philosophy. She wants to move on. So we all cope with it. We all find our own philosophies. Or identify with an already existing one.
I find one of the things that you said is quite interesting. Obviously, these are points of view that everyone has about their own mortality and loss of other loved ones. But somewhere where you brought in the aspect of accepting the truth for what it is, in the sense of not running away from the subject at any point of time. While you are living and healthy, there is one way to approach it. When you are unhealthy and when you are feeling fearful, then you accept that you are fearful and moving in that direction. Somebody wants prayers and donations to be made in their name so that they are in peace now and later. So be it. The idea is how often can we keep engaging with the subject to understand ourselves and our feelings about it, and accepting as much as we can instead of trying to mystify it any more than it is.
I think moderation is the key everywhere. We shouldn't even, like you said, the philosophy, reading about it from the monks. I have a husband who reads about every subject. I have never read about this subject. It's just something I've come upon as life has gone on, because one is, by the way, yesterday I lost someone whom I've known since I was a kid. And we haven't been in touch. There's a deep sadness that this is a person who is exactly my age, and he's gone due to COVID, and a lot of people are gone. So while there's a sense of deep despair, not just for this person whom I've lost, but when you stop for a minute, I think I'm meandering, am I?
No, please do.
Okay.
The idea of the podcast is to think aloud.
Yeah, I'm literally thinking aloud. So I've never read anything on death. I've never explored it. I've never chased it down. But I've never shied away from discussion, whether it is with my children or my parents or friends, and I deal with it the best that I can. So when this entire COVID situation was going on, I was volunteering, and my own family was in the hospital. My father was on the edge. Thankfully, he's back home, and I'm touching wood as I'm saying that. So, and I was volunteering. There was no time to think about it. barely sleeping, and there was a whole lot of us. I wasn't the only one. Half this country was doing that. And this is the reason I think we've got where we've got today, that a lot of it is solved, thanks to the ordinary human beings. But every single human being, whether they lost someone personally in their family or on a global level, the sorrow has been immense. So some people coped by volunteering and saying there will be no more. Some people acted equanimity, saying I will do the best that I can do. There were those who just backed off saying, I was getting overwhelmed. I wasn't being able to sleep. And then some of them are reacting like I'm reacting now. Completely unable to sleep. And that is also processing grief. I'm processing grief on a very, very global level. Even though I didn't know most of the people who have moved on during this period, I do know their families. I have looked at their appeals for help. I do know that there are these families that are now going to have one person left.
Yeah.
And however inevitable it may be, it has happened, and it is inevitable. If it hasn't happened now, it's going to happen sooner or later.
Your voice is disappearing. Are you moving?
No, I'm not. I'm actually in the field.
No, I cannot hear you clearly yet.
Okay, I'll just shift a bit.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, this sounds better.
Okay. So, it would have come. If it hadn't happened at this time, it would have happened sooner or later. An accident, illness, natural causes, old age, and we would in any case have had to process this grief. So I think processing the grief is very important, and we must allow ourselves to feel grief. That feeling, that pressure that we put on ourselves and that society puts on us, what happens when someone passes away? What do we say? The scenarios that I've seen, a friend of mine lost a baby, and someone came and this is not now, this is a while ago. And someone came and put an arm around her. She was young, she was healthy, and said, don't worry, there will be more. That's a subtle way of telling you, don't be sad. Okay? Or when someone passes away and people come and put an arm around you and say, she's in a better place, or he's in a better place, or the suffering has ended. Again, saying, don't be sad. Or, your parents have passed away and now it's your responsibility. Ab to tum ghar ke bade ho. Be strong. Subtly saying, don't process grief. While I personally think that the only thing, and I honestly admit, I don't know what to say. I get very lost when a situation like this happens. I don't know what to say. I'm likely to say the most inappropriate things. But the one thing that I do think people should say is simply, hey, I know this happened. Is there anything I can do?
Yeah.
Or when you need to talk, or when you have something to say, or when you need someone to shoot the breeze with, or practically take care of something, please give me a call. I'm right here. And then to actually answer the call. The other thing is when it's someone else, when it immediately happens. The whole world turns up, starts making those calls, you start getting those messages, people start messaging you, calling you, landing up at your place saying, oh, kya hua, kaise hua? What do you mean, kaise hua? Why do you want them to relive it?
Yeah.
Stop asking that. Secondly, your
voice is gone.
All amount. What is matters is the people who are up. The people who have already been there. Not been able to call up. They are not marking their presence.
Your voice is going intermittently. Yeah.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah. When you said secondly, after that, it's been coming and going. So can you repeat what you said?
Yes. So secondly, where people, mark their presence on day one and day two, they land up. And they're all there for you and helping you out. And sure, at that time you need a lot of practical help. But, after that is when the loneliness, when the You need to process grief. And showing up at that time is very important. Allowing people to grieve is very important. If someone comes out with you or meets you and just wants to sit and talk about the disease, it's very important to hear them out. We shouldn't say, that should not be done. I wouldn't want anyone to do that. I would want people to let me talk it out, to process the grief. So show up later. I've always shown up a week late or 10 days late or even a month late, because that's when the loneliness has settled. And that is what I would want for people to do to me as well. That if it ever happens to me, be there at a time when I need it. Don't just ask for presence. Don't give a shok sabha.
Yeah.
You know, no one needs 50 people hanging around you at that time telling you to be strong. At that particular time, you are strong. It's later on, and I've seen someone very, very close to me who lost her husband at a very young age. She's remarried now and very happily married. She married a great guy. But I've seen that the grief never goes away. Remarried, but it was not a relationship that ended, and most of your relationships never end. There's never closure. And you have to accept that the person is going to feel grief at all odd for the rest of their life, then you have to allow it. And allow it to accept. We have to accept that you don't need to be strong all the time. Even for our kids, because if we protect them 24/7, don't let them see our weaknesses, it sends them the wrong signal that this is how they are going to have to behave. They don't. Falling apart is wonderful. It helps you heal.
Yeah. I like the fact that you're normalizing grief in the sense of saying falling apart is a wonderful thing because it helps us heal. Is there a pressure? Why is there a pressure? Because you've been mentioning about the pressure for a while now in terms of different ways how we use words to stop people from grieving. Can you hear me?
I firmly believe that it is discomfort. Because none of us, and absolutely none of us, know how to deal with someone else's grief or even our own. We don't know what to say. We are comfortable around grief. And we grieve, we worry more about our own mortality and about someone else's because it's the way. We don't know if that Atma thing is real. We don't know where the soul goes, or even if the soul is real. We don't know whether that person is actually turning into our guardian and looking after us. Stories that we have made for our comfort, and we believe in them because we don't know what else to believe. What are you going to? We all need something to believe in. We believe in it. And none of us know, not even the great philosophers, because these are all philosophies. They are not truths, and none of us know the truth because none of us sitting here on this earth talking to each other have experienced it. So we don't. So it is the great unknown which is and a little fearful. And when someone is processing grief, whether it is grief over a pet or a broken relationship, or they have loved or not loved one, or like I can't feeling right now, completely unable to sleep. People don't know what to do with your grief. I don't know what to do with anyone's grief, which is why in that person I will send a message, but after that I'm going to have to figure out what I want to say so that I don't say. You can't expect someone to be strong right after someone has lost someone. You can't be strong. You can't tell a child now that your mother is no more, you are the woman of the house. She's not. She's not her own mother. She's no one's mother. She's a child. She may be a teenager. She may be 20s. She may be in her 30s. She's not going to be the mother. You can't tell a boy that now that your father is no more, you are the grown-up in the family. He is going to do his growing up in his own time. And we say this because we are uncomfortable. We don't know what else to say to the person. What do you say in a situation like this? How can I comfort someone?
I personally, what I try and do, because you really forced me to think, what do I do? My proximity to a lot of people who've had to deal with loss at different points of time uh,
Yeah.
has forced me to think on these things, and I have always tried to uh, either say, may they be in peace, because that's
Correct.
something that we are all hoping and wishing for ourselves. So,
Yeah.
also, and also share something of my vulnerability if I can at that point of time, rather than give
Yes.
any kind of cliched, it will be all right, or it was God's wish, or any. I don't
Yeah.
say any of these things. If I can't stay silent, which is most of the time, I think, but
Yeah.
I'll either I tell them what I really feel about it. Okay, I loved him, or I loved her, or sometimes I even make them smile and laugh, reminding them of
Yes.
a memory which is, oh, she did this well, or he did this well. Uh,
Mm.
I recently lost my wife about a couple of months earlier, and me and my wife and a friend and his wife had gone with us for a trip that we had to take for some reason. And while everyone was trying to come and give their condolences and stuff like that, uh, this friend's wife and was actually reminding me of, you know what, you don't know this, but when you did this and behind your back she landed up doing this, you were saying you shouldn't eat this. She was not supposed to eat something. So she had
Wow.
this full plate, she enjoyed it thoroughly. So today I'm telling you, and we were both laughing. And this is
Mm.
right at the funeral itself. And
Exactly. That's the way, when you meet and talk about the person.
like a normal conversation. And then there was somebody that we respect very much. He broke down, and she was speaking to her. No, but you know what? She had a very good time, and this is the most that we all expect, to be happy. I think the context,
Exactly.
at least for even for me, it was, there is a sense of finality to that. I do not. There are no emotions on the spot. On the spot, things have to be done. You have to take care of
Exactly.
family. You have to take care of friends, people who are coming in, the activities that are required to be done as per tradition. Respecting the tradition, respecting our elders, respecting people who come, all of it, arranging basics like water and whatever. But besides that, there is a finality. There is no processing that is going to happen right away. The moment you find out for a minute or 2 or 5 minutes, there is this processing, then there is this world, and then there is this processing that you talked about. Sometimes after 13 days, sometimes after a month, where you are with your own emotions, and you want to, and you can be just normal
Yeah.
about it. What I like about this entire conversation, and it's been it's been only one-sided in the sense of we have really taken a topic that has not been taken on this podcast before,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is how to deal
Yes.
with grief.
Not just on this podcast, Bunty. I think most people avoid talking about it. I
Yeah,
have rarely, except from the philosophers, I've never come across normal people like us having a conversation on this subject.
yeah. I think I would want to leave it vague and end it somewhere here, because I would want people to sit with this discomfort of not knowing. It's okay not to know,
Yes,
and
it's
just
okay
deal
not to
with
know.
these various examples that you gave. You've given some
Yeah,
beautiful examples in terms of parents, in terms of kids losing their parents, in terms of
yeah,
spouses losing each other, and the kind of maybe wrong societal pressures that we try and put. I think it's been a
exactly.
beautiful conversation, because I can never plan what comes out, but this is so hugely covering a topic that I would not think of covering otherwise.
I must tell you this, that every time I talk to you, I discover something within myself.
Yeah, I think the topic itself is lending itself to a lot of depth and
Yes, it is.
gravity. So thank you for joining us.
It is. It's
And
an absolute
we shall,
pleasure.
yeah.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for hearing me out.
Yeah. Thank you.